You know, there's a kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room. It presses on your chest. That's what my house has felt like since Emily left. Not when she moved out for college, not even when she got her own apartment, but the day she got married. That's when the silence became a person in my house. A heavy, invisible roommate that follows me from the kitchen to the living room, reminding me she's not coming back. I live in a modest house on the edge of a small town in Pennsylvania. You know the kind, faded white siding, a porch swing that creaks every time the wind sighs, and a backyard that backs into trees where deer sometimes wander too close to the fence. It used to feel alive. Back when the kitchen smelled like Sunday, pancakes and Emily's laughter spilled down the hallway. Now it just smells like reheated coffee and loneliness. She hasn't been home in almost 5 years, not for Thanksgiving, not for Christmas, not even when I had the flu so bad I ended up in the ER. I told her not to worry. Of course I did. That's what moms do. But deep down, I hoped she'd come anyway. I stared at the door every day that week. It never opened. People always say things like, kids grow up and get busy, or it's just part of life. But no one talks about what it feels like when your only child disappears into her new life, like you never existed in the old one. Sometimes, I walk past her bedroom and stop just for a second. The door's still closed. I haven't changed anything in there. Not because I'm holding on to the past, but because it feels like the only proof she was ever mine. The photos on the mantle haven't changed. Emily at 5, with chocolate on her cheeks. Emily in her prom dress, holding the edges like it might float away. Emily on her wedding day, her eyes filled with something I didn't recognize anymore. One Saturday morning in March, I was sitting at the kitchen table spooning oatmeal into my mouth without really tasting it. The radio played old jazz songs low in the background. I was halfway through the paper when I noticed a robin hopping on the windowsill. Spring was coming again, and she still hadn't come back. I don't know what got into me that morning. Maybe it was the robin. Maybe it was the ache in my chest that never fully went away. But I stood up, walked to my desk in the guest room, pulled out some stationery, real paper, the kind Emily used to use for thank you notes, and I started to write. I didn't plan it. The words just spilled out. Dear Emily, I'm not writing to make you feel guilty. I just wanted you to know that I still think about you every single day. Your old room still smells like your perfume. I haven't touched it. Not out of grief, just in case. I don't know if I said the wrong thing at the wedding. I don't know if I held you too tight or not tight enough. But I miss you. I miss you in a way that hurts, and I'm not sure how to fix it. You don't have to come visit. I won't ask for anything. I just needed you to know that I'm still here. Love. Mom, my hand trembled when I sealed the envelope. I stood in front of the mailbox for a good 10 minutes before I slid it in. It felt like sending a message in a bottle into the ocean. I didn't tell anyone I'd written her. Not even my sister Ruth, who calls every Friday like clockwork. Have you heard from Emily? She asked that week, voice crackling through the speakerphone like always. No, I said, stirring soup that didn't need stirring. Not in a while. You should call her. She's busy. There was a pause. Ruth knows when to push and when to leave it alone. That day, she left it alone. But inside, my heart was anything but quiet. What if she didn't write back? What if she'd thrown the letter away? Or worse, what if she read it and felt nothing? The days passed slow and stubborn. I tried to keep busy. I cleaned out the garage, painted the guest bathroom, baked blueberry muffins and gave them to the neighbors. Anything to keep my hands moving so my thoughts wouldn't dig too deep. But the silence, that awful, heavy silence, it stayed, sat at the table with me, slept in the bed next to me. And then, almost 3 weeks later, I saw the envelope. It was late afternoon when I saw it. I had just come back from walking to the corner store. Nothing fancy, just some milk and cat food for a cat I didn't even own anymore. But habits are funny like that. The envelope was tucked between a furniture catalog and a coupon booklet. At first, I didn't even notice it. It wasn't until I sat on the porch steps and began flipping through the junk mail that it caught my name in her handwriting. Mom. I stared at it for a long time. My hands were trembling so badly, I had to hold the letter with both just to keep from tearing it open in a panic. I didn't go inside. I sat right there, on the porch I used to rock her to sleep on, and opened it like it might explode. Her handwriting was just like I remembered. Slightly tilted, a little rushed in places, like her thoughts always ran a step ahead of her pen. Mom, I don't know how to begin this without crying. I've read your letter over and over for the past few days. I kept trying to write back, but every time I sat down, I froze. You didn't do anything wrong. That's the first thing I need you to know. The space between us, it wasn't something you caused. It was something I didn't know how to stop. I had to stop reading. My eyes were already brimming. I pressed the paper to my chest and let out the breath I didn't know I'd been holding for 5 years. The sun was starting to set, casting golden light across the driveway. The kind of light that makes you believe maybe the world isn't as broken as it feels. I kept reading. When I married Jacob, I thought I had to start fresh, like erase everything before him. New life, new home, new rules. But in doing that, I pushed you away. I didn't even realize how much I missed you until I had Lily. She's 2 now. And every time she says, Mama, I think of you. I think of how you used to brush my hair and sing off-key in the car and cry every time I got on the school bus. I'm sorry I never came home. I think I was ashamed of how far I let the silence stretch. But your letter, it cracked something open. I want to fix this if you'll let me. Lily, a granddaughter. A name. A child I didn't even know existed. Read that letter again that night. And again the next morning. I slept with it under my pillow like it might disappear if I didn't hold it close. The next few days were strange. I kept catching myself humming around the house, like my body knew. Before my brain did that, something had shifted. I made coffee for 2. I picked flowers from the backyard that hadn't bloomed in years. I even dusted the living room blinds. I don't know why. Maybe hope makes you do weird things, Ruth noticed. You sound different, she said on her Friday call. You okay? I didn't know how to answer her without crying, so I just said, I think I might be. A week later, I heard a car door slam. It was a Thursday. Late morning, the kind of day where the wind carried just a little warmth, like spring trying to remind winter it was done. I looked out the window and nearly dropped my coffee. There she was. Emily. She stood by a silver SUV holding a diaper bag and a car seat. Her hair was pulled back the way she used to wear it in high school. No makeup, just her face. Raw, real, hesitant. My heart didn't race. It just cracked open. The screen door creaked as I opened it. I stepped onto the porch. She looked up, our eyes locked. And then, her voice. So soft I almost didn't hear it. Hi, Mom. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My legs moved, before my mouth could. I walked down the steps, and she met me halfway. We stood there, inches apart, strangers who used to be everything to each other. Then she reached into the car seat and lifted a small, curly-haired toddler into her arms. Mom, she said, her voice trembling. This is Lily. I don't remember the exact moment I started crying. I just remember my arms wrapping around both of them like they'd never left. We didn't rush inside. We just stood there for a moment, the 3 of us in the driveway, like something sacred was unfolding and none of us quite knew what to say. Lily looked up at me with wide brown eyes, Emily's eyes, Her tiny fingers clutched a plastic giraffe, her curls bouncing in the soft wind. She didn't smile, not right away. Just stared like she was trying to figure out who I was and whether I belonged in her world. I wasn't sure either, but I knelt down anyway. "Hi, sweetheart," I whispered. "I'm your grandma." The word tasted foreign, like something I'd practiced in dreams but never dared say out loud. Emily looked away quickly, wiping under her eyes. She hated crying in front of people, even me. "Come on in," I said, clearing my throat. "You must be freezing." The house smelled like lemon cleaner and cinnamon, overcompensating maybe for how long it had been since it last smelled like family. I'd set the kitchen table that morning. 2 mugs, extra napkins, just in case. Emily took a deep breath when she walked in. I saw her eyes scan the hallway, the worn carpet, the family photos still lining the walls. Her steps slowed when she passed her old bedroom. The door was still closed. "You kept it the same," she said quietly. I didn't know what else to do with it. She nodded, her hand resting lightly on the doorknob for a second, just a second, before she walked into the kitchen. Lily toddled behind her, dragging her giraffe along the floor. "I remember this chair," Emily said, pulling one out and sitting down. "I used to balance my cereal bowl on the armrest and spill milk everywhere. I still have the stain." I smiled. That got the tiniest laugh out of her. But the silence that followed was heavier. She took a sip of the tea I'd poured her. Chamomile, her favorite when she was little. She used to call it sunshine water. "I've replayed this in my head 100 times, she said. Us, sitting here, talking. I thought about what I'd say, how I'd apologize. I shook my head. "You don't owe me a speech, Emily." "Yes, I do," she said, firm. I left you with nothing, no visits, no calls, no explanation. You had a new life, a family." She gave me a look. "You're my family too, Mom." Those words almost undid me. I looked down at my hands, aged and veined and too often empty lately. "I just didn't want to make it harder for you," I murmured. "After the wedding, I felt like maybe I was part of a chapter you closed." Emily winced. "God, no, it wasn't like that. I think I was just overwhelmed. Jacob's family had a lot of expectations, and I didn't know how to set boundaries without disappointing everyone. And I was the easiest to disappoint." "I thought you'd understand," she said, her voice cracking. "I thought you'd wait for me to figure it out." "I did wait," I said softly. She looked down, silent. Then Lily climbed into her lap and said, "Mama, who's that?" Emily smiled and looked at me. "That's Grandma," she said, brushing Lily's curls. "She's the reason we're here." We didn't cover everything in that conversation. We didn't solve 5 years of silence over 1 cup of tea, but we began. After lunch, Emily let Lily nap in her old bedroom. I offered hesitantly. She nodded, and I took the toddler in my arms, humming the same lullaby I used to sing to Emily when she was little. It felt like some invisible thread had rewoven itself between us in that moment. Later, Emily and I sat on the porch. The air was crisp but soft, the kind of weather that makes you want to wrap yourself in a sweater and memories. "I missed this view," she said. "I missed your voice." "I think I was afraid," she admitted, turning to me. "Afraid that you were angry or hurt, and that if I came back, you wouldn't want me." I reached for her hand, held it like something precious. "I was hurt," I said honestly. "I won't lie. There were nights I cried into your baby blanket like a fool, but not once did I stop wanting you." She nodded, swallowing back tears. "I want to come back more often, if that's okay." I laughed, wiping at my eyes. "Emily, you don't even have to ask." That night, after they left to go back to the hotel, just for the night, she said, Promising to come again on Sunday, I walked through the house and paused outside her old room. Lily had left her giraffe on the bed. I picked it up gently and sat down in the quiet. But it wasn't the same kind of quiet anymore. This silence didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. Sunday came slower than I thought it would. Every creak of the floor, every sound of tires on gravel outside, made my heart skip. I baked a pie at 8 a.m. I rearranged the pillows on the couch, twice. I even vacuumed behind the fridge, which no one but God and maybe a cockroach would ever see. At 2:10 p.m., I heard the car pull in. I didn't run to the window this time. I waited. Calm on the outside, but inside, I was that same mother again, waiting by the school bus for her daughter to come home. Emily came to the door holding Lily, and behind her, Jacob, her husband. I wasn't expecting him. He looked a little nervous, like a teenager meeting his girlfriend's parents, even though he'd married my daughter 5 years ago. He wore a faded college hoodie and carried a pack of juice boxes under one arm. "Hi," he said, awkward smile. "Hi," I replied, unsure what else to say. Emily cleared her throat. "He wanted to come." "I'm glad," I said, opening the door wide. "Come in, all of you." Lunch was surprisingly normal. Lily insisted on feeding everyone spoonfuls of mashed potatoes. Jacob complimented the chicken salad like he was auditioning for a cooking show. We laughed. We actually laughed. And after we cleared the plates, Emily looked at me with that same tight-lipped look she always got before saying something big. "Mom," she started, gently setting down her glass. "We've been talking actually, for weeks, even before the letter." I looked at her, waiting. She glanced at Jacob, who nodded like they'd rehearsed this. "We want to move back, here, to town." My fork froze midair. We're tired of the city, tired of the rush and the noise and never having enough time. And we want Lily to grow up knowing her family, her real family. I didn't say anything at first. It felt like the room had shifted, like the air had weight. Emily kept going, rushing now. We found a place down the road, 2 blocks from the park. It's small but perfect. And we were hoping, maybe you could help us settle in. Watch Lily sometimes. Be part of her life. I stared at her, my daughter. The same girl who once stormed out of this house shouting she'd never come back, now asking if I wanted to be in her life again. "I thought you'd be upset," she said, laughing nervously. "You're so used to quiet now. You probably don't want us crashing back into your world." I reached across the table and put my hand over hers. "I've had enough quiet to last a lifetime," I whispered. The next few weeks moved fast. They signed the lease. I helped them paint the nursery in shades of sunshine yellow and sky blue. Jacob and I bonded over bad plumbing and his complete inability to hang a shelf straight. Emily started coming over for coffee every morning, just like we used to before school. One morning, Lily was playing with pots and pans on my kitchen floor when Emily came in holding a small tin key. "I want you to have this," she said. I looked at it. "The spare key?" Emily nodded. "To our place, in case we're out or running late or you just want to stop by." I took it slowly, like it was made of glass. "I kept a key under your welcome mat for years," I told her, half smiling. "Even after you stopped coming?" Her eyes softened. "I know." I looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't a little girl anymore. She was a mother, a wife, a woman who had messed up, walked away, and come back. That mattered more than anything. "I'm proud of you," I said. Emily blinked fast, her mouth trembling just slightly. "I'm proud of you too," she whispered. And just like that, we weren't broken anymore. We were something new, maybe not what we used to be. Maybe something better. Because the thing about silence is, it can stretch and ache and try to keep people apart. But it can't erase love. Love waits, sometimes quietly, sometimes through heartbreak, but it waits. And on a quiet street, in a modest house with a screen door that still squeaks, love came home. Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones we hurt without meaning to. But love, real love, has a way of waiting patiently, even in silence. This story reminds us that it's never too late to come home, to forgive, and to start again. If you've ever felt the weight of distance between you and someone you love, maybe today is the day to write that letter, make that call, or open your door, just like she did. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to True Story Chapters, where every story is a window into the heart.